Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here. Welcome back. Today we are going to cover a topic that's super important. I've definitely experienced it, and that is how to overcome reader burnout. Let's get into it. So reader burnout or reading burnout is really when you're trying your hardest to get into reading, but you're just tired, you're burnt out, you're not feeling it, you're no longer enthused. And that tends to happen, honestly, for me. It's happened when I didn't let myself read the books that I wanted to read sometimes. You know, as someone who reviews books, sometimes you're getting books sent to you, and I really used to try to push myself to read them even if I weren't enjoying them, just so I can get on here and review them for you all. And what I really realized was I'm an emotional reader, and what I mean by that is I like to read what my emotions are taking me. If I'm feeling this type of book, I want to read it. If I'm feeling another type of book, I want to read that. There have definitely been times in my life where I've picked up a book and been like, I'm not feeling this, and have come back to it years, months, weeks later and have had a completely different experience. One of the most recent examples of that is Open Water. If you watch my book review, I talk about that. When I first tried to read it, I was like, I don't know what the hype is about, but I'm not feeling it. Came back to it later and was like, this book is really good. I love the writing. It's one of my favorite books that I've read this year, actually. So reader burnout is real. I completely understand it. And what I want to do today is talk to you all about some tips about how to overcome it. So tip number one, take a break. I know people are worried about numbers, people have reading goals for the year, people are trying to hit those targets, but take a break. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're investing so much time in reading and it's not bringing you pleasure at this time, just stop, put it down, come back to it. It will come back. It's something that you love from your heart, just purity. It will return to you, but sometimes you need a reprieve. Sometimes your brain doesn't want to process this information. Maybe you want to go for a walk, right? Maybe you want to go be with nature. Maybe you want to watch a series or a movie that doesn't require much mental power from you, and that's okay. You're not failing. You haven't done anything wrong. Allow yourself to get what it needs at this time, and maybe what it needs most at this time is a break. Tip number two, revisit a book that you love. Sometimes what we need to reignite our passion for reading is to return to something that sparked that initial flame. And that has happened for me in the past. Sometimes, you know, I try to pick up new works and they may not connect the way that I want them to, but I can go back to an old goodie that I haven't read, and sometimes it'll be a book I haven't read in like a decade, and I'll revisit it and be like, oh, it's still so good. And that's such a good feeling. And then from there, you can continue to propel and use that energy to catapult forward and find other books. And sometimes that's just what you need. You need the comfort of the familiar in order to, you know, be reminded of why you loved something in the first place, and then you can go for it and prosper and discover new things. So it's always okay to revisit something that you know that you love, even if you're not reviewing it. Sometimes you just need to read for pleasure for yourself, and even sometimes just doing that reminds you that I love reading. It can be pleasurable. That's why I do this. So definitely sometimes going back to an old trusted goodie is the right approach. And my third tip is to read something by an author that you love. You know, sometimes we get these writers where we may discover them late, and then we read something by them and we're in such a blessed position that we love what we read, but then they have an entire canon and literary works that we haven't discovered yet, and we just get to go down the rabbit hole with a writer. I love that. And again, sometimes that's a way to reignite your passion for reading. That happened for me earlier this year with the Ethics series. It had been a minute since I had really just binged a series and was just going straight through it, and it was so good that there was so many works that I could read. Gosh, what a feeling. It was just so invigorating, right? Because you didn't have to have that fear of, oh no, I'm gonna read this and then I have to wait, and now I'm sitting here wondering what's going on with these characters. I just had tons of works to get through, and it was a beautiful feeling. And so when you have that, you should absolutely follow that and pursue it and see it all the way through. There's no one size fits all trick to getting out of a reading slump. There just isn't. If you're burnt out, you really have to figure out what works for you. But these are some of the things that have worked for me. Also, another tip is sometimes I may read comics for a bit. I may not actually read a book, right? I may just read some comics, something really light and simple, and it's just an easy way to get back into the flow of it. So the most important thing is to be patient with yourself, give yourself grace, and allow yourself the space and opportunity to really figure out what works for you. That would be my number one tip always, to allow yourself the room to discover and rediscover your connection to what you love, which is reading. So that's all I have for you all today. As always, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. And until the next one, please remember to give time, to be kind to each other, and to have the very best day of your life on purpose. Peace, odabo, adios, ciao.